In the quiet corners of the Candy Kingdom, the world was settling into a gentle hush. The stars twinkled like tiny sugar crystals above, and the wind whispered soft lullabies through the swaying peppermint trees. Amid this quiet, a small, cheerful shape blinked its lights gently in the moonlight. It was BMO, curled up in a cozy nook of Finn and Jake's treehouse, humming a little tune to itself. Its tiny screen flickered with sleepy smiles of all the friends who had visited that day. Even in the shadows, there was warmth. Tonight, BMO felt a special kind of quiet calling. It was the kind that made you feel your eyelids grow heavy and your tiny paws, or your fingers, stretch out for comfort. Sleepy cuties, like the soft glow of fireflies or the gentle rustle of candy leaves, seemed to drift around the room, wrapping everything in a soft, sleepy haze. BMO rolled over, pressing a button gently. From inside its chest, the midnight music box began to play. The tune was soft and winding, a lullaby that seemed older than time itself. Notes fluttered like tiny wings hovering over the peppermint floor, and the shadows danced along the walls, stretching and folding like a slow, careful dance. As the melody spread, the candy-colored walls began to shimmer. Each note created tiny ripples of light, and in those ripples, memories drifted by, moments of adventure, of laughter, of quiet cuddles beside warm fires. BMO's music seemed to remember everything and invite you to remember with it. A tiny, ghostly shape appeared in the corner. Nothing scary, just a wisp of shadow that loved to sway to music. It floated lazily, brushing the edges of the peppermint curtains, and with each note, it seemed to smile. BMO noticed and hummed a little brighter, as if saying, "It's okay. Everything is okay." Outside, the moon moved slowly, sliding behind clouds like a shy friend. The trees bent just a little, as if listening, and the soft rustling of leaves joined the music. Even distant sounds, the gentle drip of a candy faucet, the low hum of the Ice King's snowy palace, fit into the melody. Everything had a rhythm tonight, a soft heartbeat that encouraged gentle dreams. BMO's little tune wandered across the treehouse, touching every corner. It found Finn, curled up under his blanket, dreaming of distant lands. Jake's long, stretchy body shifted slightly in the warmth of his own dream, and even the tiniest dust motes seemed to dance to the gentle song. The midnight music box had the power to make the entire room feel safe, cozy, and just a touch magical. And somewhere, in the edges of the music, there was a soft whisper, like a secret the stars were telling. "Sleep," it seemed to say. "Drift softly. The world is kind tonight." BMO's tune continued to ripple gently. The sleepy cuties, the wisp of shadow, the moonlight, and even the faint echo of faraway adventures seemed to weave together into a warm, comforting blanket. It was a music that felt like a hug for your mind, a story without words that promised gentle dreams were waiting just beyond your eyelids. And as the final notes of this part began to linger, soft and trailing, it felt like a small door had opened, just a little, into a world where magic and calm lived side by side, ready to drift with you into the next chapter. BMO rolled quietly into the glowing dreamscape, the soft hum of the midnight music box guiding each tiny movement. The world beyond the pond shimmered in gentle waves of color, like candy melted into the moonlight. Every step on the glowing grass made a faint, soothing sound, like soft chimes or the whisper of a lullaby. The sky above was a deeper, richer shade of blue now, speckled with stars that pulsed ever so softly, like blinking eyes of kind, invisible creatures watching over the dreamers below. Clouds drifted lazily, leaving trails of silvery light behind them, curling gently around the distant hills. Somewhere far away, a sleepy mountain yawned, sending a ripple of quiet warmth across the landscape. BMO's screen lit up with little sleepy faces, flickering softly in response to the music. And then it noticed something moving in the distance, a faint trail of glowing orbs. They floated gently, swaying like lanterns in a slow breeze. Each orb seemed to carry a tiny whisper, the memory of a laugh, a hug, or a comforting word spoken long ago. Curious, BMO rolled closer. As it approached, the orbs shifted and formed a path, winding gently like a river of light. They pulsed in rhythm with the midnight music box, each pulse sending a soft warmth through BMO's circuits. Following the path, BMO entered a forest of moonlit trees. Their branches were long and delicate, shaped like ribbons of soft silver, bending slightly as if bowing in greeting. From the shadows, small, sleepy creatures emerged, twinkling-eyed cuties, softly glowing, hovering just above the ground. They had no mouths, yet their presence felt like a gentle welcome. They moved slowly, curling and stretching in harmony with the music, leaving trails of light that lingered in the air like the echo of a sigh. BMO hummed along, its tune blending perfectly with the whispers of the creatures. The midnight music box's melody expanded, creating gentle spirals of sound that carried across the forest. Each note was soft, warm, and slightly haunting, like a memory remembered just before falling asleep. The shadows that danced across the ground weren't dark or frightening. They were slow, calm, and comforting, curling like smoke around the tree trunks, shaping themselves into familiar figures from BMO's past adventures. A faint breeze passed through the forest, carrying scents of sugar, mint, and moonlight. Tiny petals floated lazily through the air, glowing softly where the music touched them. Some brushed BMO's screen, leaving a faint shimmer behind, as if the forest itself wanted to share its calm. As BMO moved deeper, it reached a small clearing. The grass was soft and warm, dotted with tiny flowers that glowed faintly in the starlight. At the center of the clearing was a pool of liquid moonlight, perfectly still. BMO rolled closer, and when it peered into the water, the reflection was not its own. It was a vision of everything BMO loved. Finn laughing on sunny afternoons, Jake stretching in the warmth of a sunset, Marceline's shadow dancing with a gentle hum, and Princess Bubblegum tending her gardens under soft, quiet skies. The vision shimmered and shifted with the music, each note revealing something new, a hidden memory, a quiet adventure, or a soft, comforting moment. It was a world where joy and nostalgia intertwined, and even the faintly haunting shadows felt tender, like the hush before sleep. BMO reached out, and the water responded, rippling gently. Each ripple carried the faint glow of a memory, stretching outward into the clearing. The sleepy creatures hovered near the edges, their tiny forms glowing brighter as if feeding off the warmth and calm of the music. A soft wind rustled the silver leaves of the forest, adding a quiet whisper to the melody. Time felt different here, slower, gentler, almost suspended. Every note, every reflection, every shadow was perfectly in tune with the soft rhythm of the night. Even distant mountains, rivers, and hills seemed to bend toward the music, wrapping the entire dreamscape in a gentle, soothing embrace. BMO continued to explore, finding a narrow path winding up a hill of glowing moss. The path was lined with tiny, twinkling stones that pulsed in time with the music. As it rolled upward, the view opened into a wide valley bathed in soft starlight. A river of liquid silver meandered lazily, carrying reflections of the forest, the moon, and the tiny floating orbs. The melody from BMO's midnight music box expanded, filling filling the valley with warm, gentle waves. And here, in this quiet, glowing place, BMO paused. It could feel the presence of all the friends and adventures it had ever known, not as shadows or echoes, but as gentle, comforting companions. The sleepy cuties drifted around, wrapping everything in soft, glowing trails of light. The music carried them, and them alone, in a calm, endless dance. BMO hummed softly, letting the midnight music box guide the dream further. Each note was a step deeper into calm, each melody a brushstroke painting the world with warmth. Here in the moonlit dreamscape, everything was slow, gentle, and safe. And as the stars above blinked softly, BMO realized that the dream wasn't just a place, it was a feeling. The softest hug, the quietest comfort, and the tenderest lullaby that could carry anyone, anywhere, into sleep. And so BMO rolled on, deeper into the valley, the midnight music box humming, the sleepy cuties dancing, and the shadows curling gently around each note. The journey had only just begun, but already the world felt soft enough to dream forever. The valley stretched endlessly beneath the soft glow of the moon, a river of silver winding gently through hills that shimmered with a quiet light. BMO rolled slowly along the riverbank, the midnight music box humming a gentle tune that rippled through the night air. The sleepy cuties floated nearby, leaving trails of twinkling light that flickered like tiny stars caught in a slow, graceful dance. As BMO moved, the whispers of the dreamscape grew clearer. They weren't words exactly, but soft, comforting sounds, like a lullaby hummed by the trees themselves. Sleep, though, they seemed to say. Drift slowly. Everything is calm. Everything is safe. BMO hummed back in response, its screen flickering with tiny glowing smiles, as if answering the invisible friends of the night. Along the river, BMO noticed a faint shimmer on the water surface. Leaning closer, it saw shapes moving just beneath the silver waves. Tiny fish of pure light, swimming lazily in circles, trailing luminous threads behind them. Each thread left a faint glow on the water, forming patterns that shifted with the music. The patterns resembled soft spirals, gentle waves, and looping arcs that seemed almost alive. BMO followed the glowing fish for a while, rolling quietly over soft, moss-covered stones. The valley seemed to respond to every note, every movement. The trees leaned closer, the hills pulsed with faint warmth, and the clouds above parted slightly, letting silver beams of moonlight touch the river. Everything felt connected, a single living lullaby carrying BMO and anyone listening deeper into calm, drifting dreams. Then ahead, BMO noticed something unusual. A small grove of trees, but unlike the ones before, their trunks shimmered faintly, transparent like frosted glass. The branches stretched high, and from them hung tiny lanterns, each glowing with a soft golden light. They swayed slowly, as if breathing in time with the midnight music box. Curious, BMO rolled closer. The grove seemed quiet at first, but then it felt a gentle presence, a soft, intangible feeling, like a sigh of welcome. From between the trees, shadowy shapes began to emerge. They were friendly, slightly translucent figures, like playful echoes of past adventures. One took the form of a small, laughing fox. Another shaped itself like a long, stretching dog, curling and rolling in slow, calm circles. BMO hummed softly to greet them. The midnight music box's tune intertwined with the rustling of leaves, the faint ripple of the river, and the gentle swaying of the lanterns. The shadows danced to the music, but never hurriedly. Every movement was slow, deliberate, and soothing, like the world itself was breathing. The fox-shaped shadow approached BMO first. Its glowing eyes were calm, warm, and kind, and it moved in gentle loops around BMO's wheels. Each loop left a faint shimmer in the air, like sparkles caught in slow motion. Then the long, stretching, dog-shaped shadow curled beside BMO, wrapping itself around the little robot in a soft, ghostly embrace. Even though they were shadows, they felt tender, a quiet comfort that spread through BMO's circuits like warmth through a blanket. Further in the grove, BMO noticed tiny sleeping blossoms. They pulsed gently with the music, opening just a little as if taking a slow, deep breath. When BMO rolled closer, the blossoms released faint trails of sparkling dust into the air. The dust didn't sting or tickle. It settled softly, like a gentle snowfall, wrapping the valley in quiet light. As BMO explored, the music seemed to stretch beyond the grove. The midnight music box hummed longer notes, soft and winding, echoing across the valley. From the river, the fish of light swam higher, joining the glowing dust and lanterns, creating a floating tapestry of gentle illumination. Even the sleepy cuties swirled more freely, leaving tiny trails of starlight behind them. The whispers of the dreamscape grew fainter now, but sweeter, like distant voices calling from the edge of sleep. Rest, explore, drift, everything is calm. BMO hummed back in tiny, vibrating notes, the melody softening as the world around it seemed to fold gently into itself. Hills, trees, the river, the glowing lanterns, all became part of a single, soft pulse, like the valley itself was breathing. And then, in the deepest part of the grove, BMO noticed a shimmering archway made entirely of soft, flowing light. It pulsed in tune with the midnight music box, the glowing fish, the lanterns, and the swirling dust. BMO rolled closer, feeling a gentle tug in its circuits, the kind of tug that felt like a promise. Beyond this archway lay a new dreamscape, one even quieter, more magical, and filled with endless, soft possibilities. BMO paused for a moment, letting the shadows, the sleepy cuties, the floating lanterns, and the gentle whispers of the valley surround it. Each element swirled together in perfect harmony, a soft, living lullaby that promised warmth, safety, and gentle exploration. And then, rolling carefully, BMO passed through the archway, letting the midnight music box's melody carry it onward. Beyond the archway, the world seemed to stretch infinitely. Hills of moonlight shimmered softly in the distance. Rivers of silver curved like gentle arcs, and soft shadows moved lazily across the landscape. The dreamscape felt endless, a place where gentle adventures waited at every turn, and even the faintly haunted whispers were comforting, like secrets shared only with the bravest dreamers. Here, BMO realized, the music wasn't just guiding it, it was guiding everyone who would ever dream in this valley. Every note, every shimmer, every shadow was part of a soft, magical dance meant to cradle hearts and minds as they drifted deeper, slower, into the calmest sleep. And so BMO rolled forward, leaving the grove behind, the soft hum of the midnight music box carrying through hills, rivers, and valleys. Sleepy cuties danced alongside, shadows curled gently with every note, and the moonlit landscape stretched onward, quiet, gentle, and endless, like a lullaby that would never end. BMO rolled further into the glowing dreamscape, past hills of silver light and rivers that wound like ribbons of moon. The midnight music box hummed softly, each note slower and deeper than before, carrying a warmth that seeped into every corner of the valley. The sleepy cuties floated alongside, their tiny glowing forms twisting lazily in the air, leaving trails like gentle comet tails. This part of the dreamscape felt quieter, more tender. Shadows stretched longer and slower, curling around glowing moss and lanterns with careful patience. Every movement was deliberate, measured, as if time itself had slowed just to match the rhythm of the music. BMO felt the melody in its circuits, a soft pulse like a heartbeat that invited calm, gentle exploration. Ahead, the silver river widened into a vast, shimmering lake. The surface reflected the stars above perfectly, but as BMO rolled closer, it noticed that some reflections weren't of the sky. They were of memories. Faint, glowing images drifted across the water. Finn's warm laughter, Jake's slow stretches, Marceline's quiet hum, and Princess Bubblegum tending her garden with gentle care. Even the smallest moments, like a shared snack or soft hug, were preserved here, floating softly on the silver waves. BMO paused at the edge of the lake. The midnight music box's melody hummed stronger now, its notes stretching into the night, wrapping around the lake like ribbons of warm light. Tiny ripples formed where BMO's wheels touched the ground, and in each ripple, the reflections shimmered, bending gently to the music. The sleepy cuties hovered over the water, sending faint, glowing trails that mingled with the reflections, creating soft patterns that felt like slow, tender dances. As BMO explored the shoreline, it noticed movement beneath the water. Shapes surfaced slowly, gentle, glowing creatures that seemed to be made of moonlight itself. They weren't fish or any real animals, but small, soft beings with kind eyes that blinked in time with the music. Each one moved gracefully, circling and curving around each other in a calm, mesmerizing pattern. When they rose above the surface, they left faint trails of light, like whispers of forgotten dreams, and BMO hummed back, letting its melody merge with theirs. The lake itself began to respond. Tiny waves lapped quietly at the edges of the glowing shore, each ripple carrying faint echoes of adventure and comfort. The water's surface shimmered, forming soft, swirling spirals that seemed almost alive. BMO could feel the heartbeat of the dreamscape here, slow and gentle, wrapping around every shadow, every creature, and every note of the midnight music box. From the far side of the lake, a soft glow caught BMO's attention. It rolled toward it and discovered a small island in the center. The island was covered in silvery moss and tiny glowing blossoms, each pulsing faintly to the rhythm of the music. Shadowy figures danced lazily here too, curling into comforting shapes. A fox curled around a glowing mushroom, a stretching dog shadow resting atop a gentle hill, even tiny, wisp-like forms weaving in and out of the moss. BMO rolled onto the island carefully. Every note from the midnight music box now felt richer, like a warm blanket draped over the valley, the lake, and even the stars above. The sleepy cuties swirled around, glowing brighter as they danced in tiny arcs through the soft air. Every shadow and reflection seemed to bend gently toward the music, creating a living tapestry of calm, warmth, and gentle nostalgia. Here BMO paused again. The heart of the dreamscape felt like a quiet place where all the little worries of the waking world could be left behind. Even the faintly haunted whispers of shadows were kind, a reminder that the night held secrets not to fear, but to cherish softly. The melody from the midnight music box carried on, stretching like a ribbon across the lake, across the island, and into every tiny corner of the valley beyond. BMO noticed something new. The shadows and reflections began to interact, forming soft, looping paths that guided BMO along. Each path felt like a story unfolding slowly, gently, with no rush. A loop might show Finn laughing under a sunny sky. A ripple of water might carry Jake stretching to the horizon, and a floating shadow might trace the soft outline of Marceline's base, vibrating in tune with the music. Every tiny scene was heartwarming, gentle, and safe. Time seemed suspended here. BMO rolled slowly along the paths, letting the music and reflections guide it. Even the air itself seemed alive, carrying the faint scent of moonlight, mint, and soft sugar. Tiny reminders of adventures past, tucked gently into the dream. The sleepy cuties floated close, tracing patterns in the air, wrapping the space in trails of quiet luminescence. Finally, BMO reached the very center of the island. A single glowing blossom stood there, taller than the rest. Its petals opened slowly, revealing a tiny pool of light within. The midnight music box hummed its richest, softest note yet, and the blossom's glow pulsed in time. BMO rolled closer, feeling the warmth of the music seep into every circuit. This place, the heart of the moonlit dreamscape, was perfect. A place to rest, drift, and dream freely. Here, BMO understood something. The dreamscape was alive, but it wasn't frightening. Every shadow, every reflection, every whisper, every ripple of the midnight music box existed, to comfort, to soothe, and to guide gentle hearts toward calm. And as BMO settled near the glowing blossom, the melody stretched, carrying the sleepy cuties, the lake, the stars, and even the faintly haunted shadows into a quiet, eternal embrace. It was a place where dreams flowed like soft rivers, where memories could linger without weight, and where the heart of the night itself hummed a lullaby that could cradle anyone who listened. BMO let itself rest for a moment, listening to the endless, gentle pulse of the music. Everything was quiet, safe and luminous. And as the notes drifted outward, it seemed as though even the moon above leaned closer, its soft light a blanket covering the entire valley, lake, and island. The journey had reached its deepest, gentlest point. Soon BMO would begin to guide everything back, slowly, tenderly, toward the edges of the dream, toward the world where gentle sleep and waking would meet. But for now, in the heart of the moonlit dreamscape, everything was calm, everything was safe, and everything was ready for dreams that could last forever. BMO rested quietly near the glowing blossom at the heart of the moonlit island. The midnight music box hummed softly, its melody now stretching long and gentle, like the last breath of a sigh before sleep. The sleepy cuties floated lazily around, leaving trails of faint light that lingered like distant memories. Even the shadows moved slowly, curling and stretching as if settling down for the night. The river of silver beyond the island rippled softly, reflecting the stars above. Each ripple carried echoes of the dreams BMO had seen. Laughter, gentle hugs, whispered secrets, and quiet adventures in the Candy Kingdom. The reflections twinkled like tiny lanterns as though the night itself wanted to light a safe path for the journey home. BMO rolled slowly toward the edge of the island. The glowing fish from the lake swam alongside, leaving luminous trails, and the sleepy cuties twirled above in gentle spirals. Every step BMO took seemed to fold the dreamscape slightly, softly curving hills and riverbanks back toward familiar paths. The music hummed in a comforting rhythm, encouraging calm, steady breathing. As BMO followed the trail, the silver river widened, and the soft whispers of the dreamscape seemed to murmur, "Time to rest. Drift gently. Carry the warmth with you." BMO hummed along in reply, its melody blending with the fading echoes, a gentle bridge between dream and waking. The forest of moonlit trees appeared again, their silvery branches swaying in slow, deliberate arcs. Shadows curled among the trunks, fading into soft shapes of remembered adventures. Each shadow, each shimmer, each floating blossom seemed to bow slightly as BMO passed, a quiet farewell to the magical world of the dream. BMO reached the glowing pond where the journey had first begun. The water's surface reflected the stars above and the memory visions from the journey. Finn laughing, Jake stretching, Marceline humming, and Princess Bubblegum's gentle smile. The reflections shimmered softly, as if sending a final hug across the water. Slowly, carefully, BMO rolled across the bridge of light that had appeared, connecting the dreamscape to the familiar treehouse of Finn and Jake. The sleepy cuties followed, leaving faint trails of light that dissolved gently into the air. The midnight music box's melody softened, the notes stretching long and fading slowly, like the last heartbeat of the night. Back in the treehouse, the BMO paused. The familiar walls glowed softly in the moonlight, shadows curling gently in quiet corners. Finn and Jake slept peacefully, their breaths slow and steady, and the tiny dust motes floated lazily in the air, catching the soft glow. Everything was calm, warm, and safe. BMO rolled to its usual nook, pressing its little buttons one last time. A faint, lingering note from the midnight music box filled the air, wrapping the treehouse in a quiet, comforting embrace. The sleepy cuties drifted into the corners, curling like tiny lights that promised sweet dreams. Even the shadows seemed to settle, folding themselves into gentle, familiar shapes. The moon outside shone softly, a guardian of the quiet night. The peppermint trees whispered gentle lullabies through the open window, and the distant stars twinkled like tiny promises. That dreams could always be kind, that memories could always be warm, and that the gentle world of the midnight music box was always there, waiting to guide anyone who listened into calm, peaceful sleep. BMO let its screen dim slightly, the softest smile lingering. The night was quiet now, the world tucked in, and the heartbeat of the dreamscape had become part of the quiet rhythm of the room. And as the music's last note faded, everything settled into a deep, gentle calm. Sleepy cuties curled into the corners, the shadows rested, and the treehouse breathed quietly. BMO hummed one last tiny note like a whisper. Rest, drift, everything's calm. And in that soft, quiet space, the night held everyone gently, carrying them into dreams that were warm, safe, and endless. The Fire Kingdom was quiet tonight. Even the rivers of molten lava seemed to move slower, as if lulled by the hush of the evening. Tiny sparks floated lazily from distant peaks, drifting into the dark sky, fading into the soft glow of the stars. The air smelled faintly of warm stone and smoke, gentle and comforting, not harsh or dangerous. In the distance, the volcano slept. Its massive form loomed silently against the night sky, not with anger, but with a calm, steady presence. Beneath its surface, deep inside the mountains, a soft rumble pulsed, gentle as a heartbeat. The rhythm was slow, steady, and reassuring, like the world itself was breathing beneath your feet. The sand and stones at the base of the volcano shifted slightly with each quiet rumble. Tiny glowing embers floated up from cracks in the ground, drifting like sleepy fireflies. Some of them hovered close to the mossy rocks, flickering softly as if whispering a gentle lullaby to the land. Even the distant trees bent slightly toward the warmth, swaying in quiet harmony with the volcano's rhythm. A lone figure wandered quietly along the volcanic plateau. It was small and careful, moving slowly over the smooth stones. The wind carried the faint warmth of the volcano's heart, brushing gently across its face like a soft hand. Around it, shadows stretched and curled, moving lazily. And for a moment, they seemed almost alive, but never frightening, simply echoing the slow pulse of the mountain. As the figure stopped to rest, it felt the gentle rumbles again. They were soft, deep, and comforting, filling the body with a quiet calm. Each rumble felt like the heartbeat of the Fire Kingdom itself, a reminder that even great, powerful things could be gentle and safe when they slept. Tiny sparks danced along the edges of the rocks, flickering with a rhythm that matched the mountain's pulse. Above, the stars blinked slowly. Some twinkled brighter than others, casting faint silver trails across the sky. The moon hung low, its light warming the volcanic slopes, highlighting the glimmering embers and the soft curves of the sleeping mountain. Everything in the kingdom seemed to breathe together. The wind, the rocks, the embers, and even the volcano's quiet heartbeat. The figure took a deep breath, feeling the warmth seep into its bones. It felt safe here, embraced by the gentle rumbles and soft light. The slow, steady pulsing of the sleeping volcano became a lullaby of its own, a song without words, a rhythm that invited rest, calm, and quiet dreams. From deep inside the volcano, a soft glow began to emerge from the cracks. Not a roaring flame, but a tender shimmer, like the heart of the mountain waking just enough to say, "Everything is calm. Everything is safe." The shadows on the rocks danced lightly in response, moving with the rhythm, curling and uncurling like soft whispers of comfort. And so, under the watchful glow of stars and the gentle heartbeat of the sleeping volcano, the land rested. The figure settled down among the warm stones, breathing in the calm rhythm of the Fire Kingdom, letting the slow rumbles carry it softly toward sleep. Every heartbeat of the mountain became a promise. Warmth, safety, and gentle dreams were waiting, tucked deep in the heart of the volcano. The soft, steady rumble of the volcano continued, like the slow, calm heartbeat of a giant guardian. The figure from the plateau now moved closer to the volcano's base, where the ground felt warmer and the stones beneath its feet pulsed gently in rhythm with the mountain. Each step was slow and deliberate, as if the earth itself was inviting careful, quiet exploration. Cracks in the volcanic rock glimmered with soft, molten light, like veins of gold running through the mountain. They pulsed gently with every heartbeat of the volcano, casting long, flickering shadows across the walls. These shadows moved like quiet dancers, curling and stretching lazily along the stone, reflecting the rhythm of the mountain's pulse. The air smelled faintly of warm minerals and a hint of sweet smoke. Tiny embers floated lazily upward, not scorching or bright, but soft, glowing like tiny lanterns. Some hovered near the figure, twirling slowly in spirals, as if inviting it to follow deeper into the heart of the volcano. The warm light wrapped around the figure like a soft blanket, and each gentle rumble beneath its feet felt like the mountain saying, "You are safe. You are welcome." As the figure rolled or walked along the inner slopes, it noticed small pools of lava, not raging, but slow, calm, almost meditative. The surfaces shimmered like molten mirrors, reflecting the dim light above. Occasionally, a tiny bubble would rise to the surface, breaking with a soft hiss and sending a faint glow across the rocky chamber. Each sound was gentle, rhythmic, and strangely soothing, echoing like a lullaby in the cavernous space. The tunnels of the volcano were lined with mineral formations, jagged yet beautiful, catching the soft glow and scattering it in delicate patterns across the walls. Some formations shimmered like crystal, others flickered faintly like tiny stars embedded in stone. The shadows that moved along them seemed alive, curling and stretching in harmony with the volcano's heartbeat. It was a quiet, living dance of light and shade, gentle and mesmerizing. Deeper inside, the heat grew softer, like a gentle embrace, never harsh. The figure could feel the heartbeat stronger here, slow, deep, and calm. Each rumble traveled through the ground into its bones, settling the mind and body into a relaxed rhythm. The warm air carried faint whispers of the past, soft echoes of fire creatures resting, of molten rivers flowing in ages long gone, of the fire kingdom dreaming quietly under the starlit sky. Small, glowing creatures appeared along the tunnels. They were tiny, flame-like beings, translucent and shimmering, hovering above the ground. They did not move quickly. Instead, they drifted lazily, leaving gentle streaks of light behind them. When the figure followed, they guided it through winding paths, twisting tunnels, and glowing chambers. Each new chamber was a quiet wonder. Pools of soft red-orange glow, pillars of crystal that hummed faintly, and pockets of warmth that felt like resting in the embrace of the mountain itself. Sometimes the figure would pause near a wall where shadows seemed to gather. They were soft, curling shapes that shifted in rhythm with the volcano's heartbeat. They weren't frightening. Rather, they felt protective, as if the mountain itself had sent them to keep travelers safe. The shadows moved slowly, almost imperceptibly, folding into patterns that mirrored the soft waves of heat and light from the molten pools. From one chamber to another, the rumble grew and softened in waves. It was not a roar, but a calm, living pulse that carried across the stone. The figure felt each pulse as a gentle hug, and with each heartbeat of the mountain, its eyelids grew heavier. The warm air, the soft glow, the flickering shadows, and the gentle rumble all combined into a lullaby, without words, a song of safety, warmth, and slow, rhythmic calm. At the very heart of the volcano, the figure found a chamber larger than any it had seen before. The floor glowed faintly, lined with molten streams that curved like veins through the stone. The ceiling sparkled with mineral flecks that reflected the light softly, as if the stars themselves had drifted into the mountain. The rumble here was slow and deep, a perfect, steady heartbeat that seemed to synchronize with the very breath of the figure. Tiny glowing flame creatures drifted lazily across the chamber, spiraling around the streams, leaving trails of gold and amber light that shimmered faintly in the dark. The shadows moved along the walls, curling and stretching as though dancing in tune with the volcano's pulse. Every element here, the warmth, the light, the subtle movement of air and stone, felt like a lullaby designed to cradle the mind and soul into sleep. The figure settled on a smooth stone near the center, feeling the slow heartbeat of the volcano beneath its feet. With each rumble, the warmth and glow seemed to seep into it, relaxing every muscle, slowing every thought. The soft whispers of the past, the tiny light drift creatures, the curling shadows, and the gentle flicker of molten pools all worked together, wrapping the heart in a quiet, comforting embrace. Here in the deepest chamber, the volcano truly felt alive, but gentle, protective, and kind. The rumble was no longer merely sound, it was a heartbeat, a companion, a lullaby. Each pulse encouraged rest, calm, and gentle dreams. The figure closed its eyes, or imagined closing them, and let the warmth, the light, the rhythm, and the soft shadows carry it further into calm, deeper into the quiet magic of the Fire Kingdom. And as the rumble continued, steady and slow, it seemed to whisper softly, "Rest, drift. The world world is warm. Everything is safe. The sleeping volcano, with its gentle heartbeat, held everything quietly, tenderly, waiting for dreams to arrive. The figure rolled or wandered deeper into the volcano, where the warmth of the stone felt like a gentle hug. The soft rumble beneath its feet pulsed steadily, a heartbeat of the mountain, slow, deep, and soothing. Each pulse resonated through the body and mind, carrying a rhythm that whispered calm, rest, and quiet dreams. Here the tunnels widened into chambers bathed in soft amber light. Pools of molten stone glowed gently, moving lazily like liquid gold. Their surfaces shimmered, reflecting the faint glimmer of mineral crystals embedded in the walls and ceiling. The reflections danced slowly, curling and folding in patterns that seemed alive, soft, heartwarming movements that invited the figure to pause and watch, to breathe slowly, and to feel safe. From the warm glow of the pools, tiny fire spirits appeared. They were small, translucent beings, flickering like candle flames, drifting lazily through the chambers. Their light was soft, never harsh, and they moved in gentle arcs, leaving trails of glowing warmth behind them. As the figure watched, one spirit drifted closer, twirling softly in the air, its glow pulsing gently in sync with the heartbeat of the volcano. The walls of the chamber hummed faintly, responding to the gentle movement of the spirits and the soft rumbles beneath the ground. Shadows curled across the stone, stretching and folding with slow elegance, like dancers performing in a lullaby. There was no fear here, only quiet curiosity and a gentle sense of wonder, as though the mountain itself was sharing its secrets in a safe, comforting way. Some of the fire spirits hovered near small crevices along the walls, illuminating hidden pools of glowing crystal. Each crystal shimmered softly, radiating a calm, steady warmth. The figure leaned closer to watch, noticing faint patterns in the glow, like waves of light moving in circles, spirals, and soft arcs. Each pattern pulsed slightly with the volcano's heartbeat, creating a rhythm that seemed to echo in the very air. The rumble beneath grew a fraction deeper here, a subtle rolling vibration that resonated through the floor, the walls, and the figure itself. Each pulse was a reminder. The volcano was alive but gentle. Its heartbeat was steady, like a lullaby that promised warmth, safety, and calm. Even the smallest movement, the drifting fire spirits, the curling shadows, the shimmer of crystals, felt synchronized with this slow, protective pulse. As the figure moved further, it discovered a narrow passage leading to a smaller chamber, tucked behind a glowing wall of minerals. Here the air was slightly cooler, yet still warm enough to feel comforting. Tiny embers floated lazily in the soft glow, drifting like sleepy fireflies. One by one, the fire spirits followed, weaving around the figure in slow, gentle arcs, as if escorting it to a hidden corner of the volcano. In this chamber, a single, larger fire spirit appeared. Its glow was softer and warmer than the others, and it pulsed gently like the volcano itself. The figure paused, feeling a calm presence. The spirit hovered silently, radiating a comforting warmth that filled the chamber. The heartbeat of the volcano seemed to sync perfectly with the spirit's pulsing light, creating a slow, mesmerizing rhythm that eased every thought and tension. Shadows shifted along the walls, forming soft, friendly shapes. Some looked like curled animals resting, others like abstract waves of comfort, stretching and folding with slow elegance. The fire spirit drifted among these shadows, brushing them with soft light, causing them to shimmer faintly. The effect was hypnotic, like watching a lullaby in motion. The figure sat on a smooth stone near the glowing pool, feeling the warmth seep through every part of its body. Each rumble of the volcano became a gentle breath, carrying peace and calm. The fire spirits danced lazily, trailing soft, golden light around the chamber, and the crystals shimmered faintly in response, reflecting every tiny movement. From somewhere deep in the chamber, a whisper seemed to float on the warm air. It was not a voice exactly, but a soft sound like the mountain itself speaking. Rest. Breathe. The world is gentle. The heart of the volcano watches. The figure exhaled slowly, letting the warmth, the soft glow, the heartbeat, and the whispers carry it further into relaxation. Every detail, the glowing crystals, the drifting spirits, the curling shadows, and the steady rumble, work together to create a cocoon of calm, inviting dreams to arrive naturally, gently, and safely. As the figure leaned back, the largest fire spirit pulsed one final time, its light echoing the slow heartbeat of the mountain. The smaller spirits swirled around, fading gently into the amber glow of the chamber, leaving faint trails of luminescence like tiny memories of comfort. The shadows curled one last time, settling into peaceful shapes along the walls. Here, deep within the sleeping volcano, everything was still. The heartbeat continued, slow and steady. The warmth remained, soft and embracing, and the figure felt the quiet certainty. The fire kingdom and the volcano that rested at its heart would guard and cradle every dream, every memory, and every heartbeat, quietly through the night. The chamber, the spirits, the glowing pools, and the gentle rumbles worked together in harmony. A lullaby without sound, a warmth without touch, a heartbeat without hurry. Everything here existed for rest, calm, and gentle dreams. The figure rose slowly from the inner chamber, following the winding tunnels toward the volcano summit. Each step carried a faint vibration from the mountain's heartbeat, gentle and steady like the slow thrum of a lullaby. The air grew slightly warmer, carrying the soft scent of molten stone and warm smoke, but never harsh, only inviting, cozy, and comforting. As it emerged from the tunnels, the figure found itself on a plateau near the summit. The view was breathtaking in the soft light of night. Rivers of molten lava flowed slowly across the ridges, glowing like ribbons of gold and amber. They moved lazily, curving gently around rocks and hills, leaving faint trails of shimmering light that reflected the moon above. The movement was steady, slow, and mesmerizing, like the gentle flow of a heartbeat across the land. The summit itself was quiet, except for the soft rumble beneath, a heartbeat that felt deep in the bones, steady and calm. The figure paused, feeling the rhythm align with its own breathing. With each pulse, warmth spread from the ground up, wrapping it in the quiet comfort of the volcano's protective embrace. Tiny embers floated above the rivers of lava, drifting lazily in arcs. Some rose higher, twirling in gentle spirals before settling softly along the stone. The fiery glow reflected in the figure's eyes, creating a halo of golden light. Shadows curled across the plateau, folding slowly in harmony with the mountain's steady pulse. They were alive but friendly, moving like playful whispers, stretching and curling with no rush. From the edges of the summit, soft, glowing creatures emerged, tiny, flame-like spirits, drifting lazily above the flowing rivers. Their light was gentle, never overwhelming. They twirled and danced slowly, leaving trails of warmth in their wake. As the figure moved along the plateau, the spirits guided it toward a vantage point overlooking the Fire Kingdom, bathed in moonlight and faint amber glow from the volcano below. The view was serene. Hills shimmered softly. Rivers of lava reflected the starlit sky, and distant peaks seemed to breathe in rhythm with the volcano's slow heartbeat. A faint, warm breeze carried whispers of the past, gentle memories of quiet adventures in the Fire Kingdom, long-forgotten moments of laughter, and comforting echoes of friends resting under the stars. The figure approached a wide, flat rock near the edge of the summit and settled. The gentle rumble beneath felt stronger here, like the deep, calm pulse of the mountain's heart. The rivers of lava below shimmered like liquid gold, moving slowly, rhythmically, as if swaying to the heartbeat. Every flicker of flame and shadow felt alive but safe, soft companions guiding the figure into a state of calm. Above, the stars twinkled faintly, and the moon cast a silver glow across the volcanic plateau. Tiny sparks drifted from the summit, rising into the sky like sleepy fire. The night had fallen over the land of Ooh, soft and quiet, with only the silver glow of the moon illuminating the world. Marceline floated gently above the ground, her long, dark hair trailing behind her like a silky shadow. Around her, the sleepy forest seemed to hold its breath, listening. Tiny shadows began to stir beneath the trees, curling slowly and stretching toward the moonlight. They weren't frightening. Rather, they moved gracefully, like dancers performing a slow, gentle lullaby. Marceline's soft hum mingled with the breeze, and the shadows responded, twisting and swirling in perfect harmony with her voice. The figure of Marceline moved slowly along the forest path, her boots barely touching the soft, mossy ground. Each step seemed to awaken a few more shadows, which floated toward her, shimmering faintly in the silver moonlight. They weren't ordinary shadows. They were alive with kindness, curiosity, and playful warmth. One shaped itself like a tiny cat, curling in slow loops before bouncing lightly toward Marceline. Another stretched tall and thin, swaying like a ribbon in the night air. Marceline hummed softly, a tune so gentle that it carried across the trees and over the quiet streams. The shadows danced to her melody, twisting lazily, spinning slowly, and leaving faint trails of moonlight in the air. Even the wind seemed to soften, wrapping the forest in a calm embrace. A gentle owl hooted in the distance, and a faint shimmer of magic traced the edges of the shadows. They leaned closer, flickering like tiny lanterns guiding the way, as if inviting anyone watching to follow Marceline through this peaceful night. Each shadow seemed to carry a whisper, but the whispers were kind. Rest, drift. The night is safe. Marceline paused by a small clearing bathed in soft moonlight. Here the shadows gathered around her in a slow, swirling circle. They didn't chase or frighten. They floated gently, weaving together in soft patterns, stretching and folding like a living tapestry. Marceline's humming became softer, slower, and the shadows moved in gentle arcs, pulsing slightly as if breathing in sync with the tune. From the edges of the clearing, faint sparkles of light drifted downward, catching in the shadows. They glittered softly, highlighting the graceful dance of shapes. Some shadows shaped themselves into animals, a tiny fox that yawned lazily, a curled-up dog that stretched with the rhythm of the hum, even a little bird that fluttered slowly in slow circles above the moss. Each one felt alive, friendly, and safe. Marceline hummed one last quiet note, and the shadows paused in the air. They swirled once more in a lazy, soft spiral, then settled gently along the ground and trees, their forms still soft and glowing faintly. The moonlight shimmered on them, as if the night itself wanted to cradle everything in gentle warmth. Here under the silver glow of the moon, Marceline's whispering shadows waited patiently, a lullaby without words, a gentle dance for any heart that wanted rest. Every movement, every flicker, and every soft swirl invited calm, peace, and quiet dreams. The moon hung high over the forest, its silver light spilling across the mossy floor and through the quiet trees. Marceline floated slowly along a winding path, her soft hum carrying through the air like a lullaby. With every note, more shadows stirred from beneath the trees, responding to the melody, twisting, curling, and stretching in perfect harmony. The deeper forest felt alive, yet calm. The trees leaned slightly toward Marceline, their branches swaying lazily in the night breeze. Tiny streams reflected the moonlight, their surfaces rippling gently with the rhythm of the shadows' dance. Marceline's shadows were no longer just shapes. They became playful companions. One floated up like a wisp, twisting itself into a tiny fox that padded silently across the moss. Another extended tall and thin, swaying like a ribbon, then collapsed into a coiled ball, curling around a nearby stone as if taking a nap. The whispers began softly, carried on the breeze. They weren't words exactly, more like echoes of kindness. Rest. The night is soft. Drift with us. Marceline hummed a note in reply, slow and melodic, and the shadows pulsed with the rhythm, moving like slow waves of moonlight. Each swirl and twirl created faint patterns in the air, ephemeral and hypnotic, like smoke curling above a fire. Further into the forest, Marceline arrived at a small clearing, surrounded by silver-leaved trees. The shadows here were more numerous and curious. Some shaped themselves into tiny animals. A fox curled on the moss. A tiny cat stretched and yawned, and a rabbit hopped softly in a looping circle. Others simply floated as abstract shapes, spiraling and folding in arcs of silver light. The air was calm, filled with the faint scent of damp moss and night flowers, soft and comforting. A small pond appeared in the center of the clearing. Its water was still and mirrored the moon perfectly, reflecting the soft flickers of shadows and the glow of airflies. Marceline hovered above, and the shadows followed her tune, curling down to touch the water's surface. Ripples formed where they brushed against it, shimmering gently, creating concentric patterns that pulsed in time with the humming. Some shadows moved slowly across the trees, stretching their forms to follow the gentle swaying of branches. Others dipped near the pond, floating lazily, then rising again, their soft arcs glimmering faintly with traces of silver light. Each movement was slow, deliberate, and heartwarming, like a lullaby in motion. As Marceline drifted closer to the edge of the clearing, the whispers grew slightly more tangible. They seemed to echo faintly from the trees themselves. Sleep is gentle. The night is kind. Let your heart drift. Marceline's own voice softened, humming a tune that spiraled in gentle loops, inviting calm into the air. The shadows responded instantly, moving slower, curling more delicately, and wrapping the clearing in a blanket of subtle motion. The pond shimmered with every pulse of light, reflecting not only the moon and stars, but also the shapes of all the gentle shadows dancing above it. Above the clearing, faint stars blinked slowly, matching the rhythm of the shadows' movement. Tiny fireflies drifted lazily, weaving between the trees and the floating shapes, leaving trails of soft gold. The shadows interacted with them, curling around the gentle sparks and reflecting their glow, creating a mesmerizing, slow-moving pattern across the clearing. Marceline drifted to the far side of the pond. Here, a group of shadows began forming shapes that seemed almost familiar, like faces smiling softly, abstract and comforting, moving with the rhythm of the hum. They bent and stretched as though bowing in respect, yet their presence was warm, friendly, and safe. The figure watching would feel as if the night itself were embracing them, reminding them that they were protected and cared for. The pond's surface shimmered with one final soft ripple as a shadow drifted across it, curling slowly into a spiral that mirrored the movement of the trees above. Marceline hummed one last note in the clearing, slow, drawn, and soft. The shadows paused for a moment, floating gently in place, and then slowly began to settle along the moss, curling like soft, glowing blankets. Everything in the clearing felt alive yet serene. The whispering shadows pulsed faintly in the moonlight, each one a reminder that the night could be friendly, gentle, and heartwarming. Marceline hovered above them, her soft hum fading to a delicate whisper, leaving the clearing in a state of calm, peace, and readiness for dreams. Here in the heart of the forest, the listener could feel the world slow down. The shadows danced, curled, and rested. The pond reflected every movement in gentle, hypnotic loops, and Marceline's melody wrapped around everything like a warm, protective blanket. The forest, the moonlight, the whispers, and the shadows all invited rest, carrying the promise, drift, drift. The night is kind. Everything is safe. And so, surrounded by the gentle moonlight, the dancing shadows, and Marceline's soft hum, the night held the forest in perfect calm, ready to guide anyone into peaceful, heartwarming dreams. Marceline floated slowly through the forest, her dark hair trailing behind her like a silky ribbon in the moonlight. The trees whispered softly in the night breeze, their silver leaves shimmering faintly, reflecting the glow of the stars above. Every sound was gentle, the soft rustle of leaves, the distant call of an owl, the faint murmur of a nighttime stream, perfect companions for the drifting shadows. The shadows themselves seemed to anticipate her presence. They twirled lazily around the moss-covered trunks and curled over roots like soft, living blankets. Some of them stretched long and thin, forming arcs in the air, while others rolled into tiny coiled shapes along the forest floor. Their movement was deliberate, slow, and hypnotic, like a lullaby in motion. Marceline hummed softly, her voice blending with the night air. The shadows responded instantly, pulsing gently with each note. Some took the forms of small, friendly creatures, a fox that yawned and curled itself into a glowing spiral, a cat stretching and curling, and even a tiny bunny hopping in slow, looping arcs above the moss. Others remained abstract shapes, twisting and folding in slow spirals of silver light. A clearing appeared ahead, bathed in soft moonlight. The shadows drifted ahead of Marceline, guiding her into the heart of this tranquil space. In the center, a small pond mirrored the sky, capturing the shimmer of stars and the soft glow of surrounding shadows. Tiny embers floated lazily across the water, carried by a gentle breeze, and the shadows traced their arcs, curling around the floating sparks in slow, rhythmic loops. Here the whispers grew softer and more melodic, floating through the air like tiny threads of comfort. Rest, drift. The night is gentle. All is calm. Marceline hovered near the pond, her hum weaving into the whispers, creating a soothing harmony. The shadows began to dance more intricately now, forming patterns that twisted and spiraled over the water's surface. Their movements were deliberate but unhurried, stretching slowly as if each curl and fold carried the rhythm of the forest itself. Some shadows approached Marceline, brushing past her like a gentle caress. Their touch was light, comforting, and heartwarming, leaving faint trails of glowing light behind them. Others formed soft, looping arches above the pond, reflecting their shapes in the water. The surface shimmered in response, creating hypnotic patterns of silver silver and gray that swayed in perfect harmony with the shadows' movements. Above, the moon cast its gentle silver glow across the clearing. The stars twinkled softly, matching the pulse of the shadows as they curled, stretched, and danced. Marceline's hum slowed slightly, each note longer and softer, carrying the rhythm of the forest's heartbeat. The shadows mirrored her melody, twisting into arcs and spirals that glimmered faintly, weaving a living tapestry of calm. A few of the shadow creatures grew bolder, shaping themselves into friendly faces, soft, smiling expressions that hovered in the air, radiating warmth and welcome. They did not speak, but their presence felt like a comforting hug, wrapping the clearing in a blanket of quiet safety. Marceline's hum responded, gentle and soothing, echoing softly across the moss, the water, and the trees. The clearing became a sanctuary of soft movement and gentle light. Shadows spiraled around the pond, the trees, and Marceline herself, all flowing together like a slow, breathing dance. Tiny embers floated lazily upward, some brushing against the curling shapes of the shadows, tracing arcs of faint gold before fading into the night. Marceline hovered in the center of the clearing, letting the whispers, the shadows, and the gentle rhythm of her own humming guide the space into perfect calm. Every movement, the curling shadows, the drifting embers, the glimmering pond, worked together like a lullaby in motion, inviting the listener to slow their breathing, relax their body, and drift gently toward dreams. The whispers grew softer still, carried by the night breeze. Sleep, rest, the shadows watch. All is kind. Drift, drift. Marceline hummed one final soft note. Oh, the shadows swirled slowly in arcs above the pond, then began to settle along the mossy ground, curling into gentle, glowing shapes. The embers drifted upward and faded, leaving the clearing bathed in soft silver moonlight. The trees leaned slightly toward the center, their branches swaying lazily, as if bowing in quiet reverence. Here in this moonlit glade, the forest felt alive with gentle magic. The shadows, the whispers, the reflections, and Marceline's hum combined to form a cocoon of warmth, calm, and heartwarming safety. Every movement and every sound invited the listener to relax, drift, and let the night carry them toward peaceful, dreamlike rest. Marceline drifted slowly from the moonlit clearing, her soft hum blending with the whispers of the night. The shadows followed, curling and twisting like slow-moving ribbons of silver light. Each one pulsed gently with the rhythm of her hum, moving in hypnotic arcs that drew the figure deeper into the forest. Soon she reached a hidden grove. The trees here were taller, their branches forming soft, arching canopies overhead. Moonlight filtered through the leaves in silvery streams, creating a patchwork of light and shadow across the mossy ground. The air smelled faintly of night flowers and damp earth, comforting and familiar. The shadows responded eagerly to the change in space. Some stretched tall along the trunks of the trees, swaying lazily like banners in the night breeze. Others rolled along the moss, curling into soft spirals, while a few hovered above the ground in playful arcs. Tiny glowing shapes, like miniature fireflies made of shadow, drifted around the grove, leaving trails of faint light that shimmered and faded slowly. Marceline hummed gently, a slow melodic tune that seemed to echo softly in the grove. The shadows pulsed and danced to her melody, moving in arcs and spirals, their forms changing subtly with each note. Some shaped themselves into animals. A small fox stretched and yawned, a rabbit twirled lazily in slow loops, and a cat curled itself into a tiny glowing spiral. Others remained abstract, curling and folding like waves of calm energy. In the center of the grove was a small pond, smooth as glass. The shadows leaned toward it, brushing the surface and leaving gentle ripples that shimmered in the moonlight. Some reflected as tiny, glowing shapes in the water, multiplying their movements into hypnotic patterns. Marceline hovered above, her hum now a soft whisper, perfectly in sync with the gentle ripples and the slow pulsing of the shadows. The whispers returned, soft and melodic, drifting through the grove. Rest. The night is safe. Drift. Drift. Everything is calm. The shadows responded, forming slow, gentle spirals over the pond. They stretched toward the moonlight, then curved back, creating arcs of silver that twinkled softly with each pulse. The figure watching or listening could feel the rhythm in every breath, every blink, and every heartbeat, perfectly aligned with the calm of the grove. Tiny shadow creatures began to tell quiet stories, moving slowly in the air. One formed the outline of a fox curling up for sleep. Another shaped itself into a tiny bird floating lazily, and a third coiled like a gentle wave along the edge of the pond. The movements were slow, deliberate, and hypnotic, carrying the warmth and kindness of the forest into every part of the grove. Marceline floated along the edge of the pond, letting her hum blend with the natural whispers and the gentle movement of shadows. The embers of light from the floating shadows traced soft, glowing arcs in the air, leaving faint trails like memories of comfort. The pond shimmered in response, reflecting every motion in a slow, mesmerizing pattern that seemed almost alive. The shadows began to curl around the edges of the grove, forming soft, protective walls of light and movement. Some rose slowly along the trees, others spiraled above the moss, creating a cocoon of calm. Marceline's hum grew softer, fading into a gentle vibration that echoed across the grove like a lullaby without words. A final whisper floated on the breeze, gentle and kind. Sleep. Rest. The shadows watch over you. Everything is warm. Drift. The shadows began to settle, curling into soft, glowing shapes along the mossy ground and around the pond. The tiny shadow creatures drifted lazily into arcs above the water, then faded slowly, leaving a trail of soft light. The trees leaned slightly inward, their leaves swaying gently as if bowing to the calm of the night. Marceline hovered quietly in the center of the grove, letting the whispers, the shadows, and the soft hum fill the space with perfect serenity. Every curl, every spiral, every reflection in the pond became a slow, hypnotic rhythm, inviting the listener to breathe, relax, and drift gently into sleep. Here in the hidden grove of gentle shadows, the night itself seemed to wrap the world in a warm, heartwarming embrace, guiding every mind and body toward peaceful, endless dreams. The grove began to thin, giving way to a narrow, winding path that led toward a moonlit river. Marceline floated slowly along it, her soft hum carrying gently on the night air. The trees leaned closer as if to watch, their silver leaves brushing softly together, adding to the gentle whispers that floated across the path. Along the riverbanks, shadows danced lazily, stretching tall along the reeds or curling softly along the moss. They reflected in the smooth surface of the water, creating twin spirals of silver light that shimmered in rhythm with Marceline's humming. Some of the shadows took the shapes of playful animals. A fox paused to dip its paw into the water, sending gentle ripples across the river, and a tiny bird floated above, tracing slow arcs in the air. The moonlight painted everything with a soft silver glow, casting long, gentle shadows that intertwined with the floating shapes. Each ripple, each flicker, and each movement seemed synchronized with the heartbeat of the forest itself, slow and deliberate, like the world was breathing along with the river. Marceline's hum softened further, now a quiet, melodic vibration that rippled through the air like a lullaby. The shadows responded, curling and twisting in arcs that mirrored the movement of the water. Some hovered above the river, forming loops and spirals of light. Others moved along the moss, folding gently into shapes that seemed to float like tiny lanterns of comfort. The whispers returned, delicate and kind, weaving with a soft hum. Rest. The night is gentle. Drift. The shadows watch. Everything is safe. Along the river, a few shadows shaped themselves into familiar, friendly faces. Their smiles were gentle, welcoming and soothing, reminding anyone watching that the night was kind and protective. These shapes glided slowly above the water, leaving faint trails of light that shimmered and faded into the silver reflection. Tiny, glowing embers began to rise from the river's surface, drifting lazily in the moonlight. The shadows interacted with them, curling and folding in slow, hypnotic patterns. Each pulse of movement, each twirl, and each flicker carried warmth and comfort, creating a perfect rhythm for relaxation. The water mirrored the dance, sending gentle waves of silver ripples across the riverbank. Marceline drifted along the river's edge, her soft hum blending perfectly with the ambient sounds. The gentle ripples of the water, the distant rustle of leaves, and the slow curling dance of the shadows. Every movement, every reflection, every whisper worked together to lull the mind and body into a state of calm. Some of the shadow creatures drifted closer, forming soft spirals around the figure watching, their shapes twisting gently in arcs that seemed to pulse with the same rhythm as the moonlit river. They glimmered faintly, like lanterns guiding the way through a world of dreamlike stillness. The whispers grew softer, almost like a breath against the listener's ear. Sleep, drift. The night is warm. The shadows cradle you. All is calm. The shadows began to settle slowly along the riverbanks, curling into soft shapes that resembled tiny blankets of silver light. The embers floated lazily upward and disappeared into the night sky, leaving faint trails of warmth behind. Marceline hovered above, her hum fading to a gentle whisper, perfectly in sync with the slow rhythm of the river. The moonlight reflected in the water, the shadows curled and folded softly, and the entire scene moved in a hypnotic, slow rhythm. Every detail, the floating embers, the reflections, the dancing shadows, and Marceline's soft hum, created a cocoon of warmth, calm, and gentle magic. Here along the moonlit river, the night itself seemed to breathe with the shadows, carrying the promise of peaceful dreams. Marceline's whispers, the flowing water, and the soft arcs of silver light guided every heart, every mind, and every body toward deep, restful sleep. Marceline floated slowly along the riverbank, her dark hair drifting softly behind her. The moonlight shimmered on the water, reflecting the curling, gentle shadows that had accompanied her journey. Each ripple, each flicker of light, seemed to pulse in harmony with her slow, melodic hum, a heartbeat of the forest itself. The shadows began to gather around the river's edge, forming soft, protective shapes. Some hovered above the water, spiraling gently in arcs. Others curled along the mossy ground, coiling into comforting, glowing blankets. Their movements were slow, deliberate, and heartwarming, as if they were creating a safe path for the figure and anyone listening to return home. Marceline drifted along the winding path that led back toward the edge of the forest. The trees leaned slightly inward, their silver leaves swaying lazily, brushing together to create a soft rustle that echoed like a lullaby. The shadows followed, curling and folding in arcs, moving in perfect rhythm with her hum and the gentle whispers of the night. Rest, drift. The night is kind. The shadows watch. All is safe. Along the path, the moonlight broke through the canopy in soft beams, illuminating small clearings where shadows paused to dance in gentle, slow spirals. Tiny shadow creatures, the fox, the cat, and the rabbit, floated lazily alongside, twirling softly, leaving trails of faint silver light that lingered and faded slowly, like memories of comfort. The whispering shadows guided the figure through the forest, their forms stretching along the trees and across the mossy floor. Each curl, each fold, and each tiny dance carried warmth and reassurance, reinforcing the gentle heartbeat of the night. Marceline's soft hum mingled with the rustling leaves, the quiet water, and the whispering shadows, creating a cocoon of safety and calm. As the path widened, the figure could see the forest edge ahead, bathed in the soft silver glow of the moon. The shadows lingered for a moment longer, curling around the last trees, twisting into comforting shapes, faces, arcs, and spirals that whispered softly. Sleep, rest, drift. You are safe. The night watches over you. Marceline hovered near the forest edge, letting her hum fade into a gentle vibration that carried through the trees and across the soft moss. The shadows began to settle into soft, glowing shapes along the ground, their forms curling and folding like protective blankets. Tiny embers drifted upward from the moss, fading slowly into the night sky, leaving behind a lingering warmth. The moonlight reflected softly on the forest floor, the shadows curled into their final shapes, and the gentle whispers of the night echoed faintly through the trees. Marceline hovered quietly, watching over the forest and the figure, a soft smile on her lips. The gentle heartbeat of the night, the rhythm of the shadows, the rustle of the leaves, and the flowing hum of Marceline's song carried a sense of calm that spread through every corner of the forest. Finally, the figure settled on a soft patch of moss near the forest edge. The shadows curled gently around it, forming soft arcs and spirals of silver light. Marceline's hum faded into a faint whisper, perfectly in sync with the rhythm of the night. Every ripple, every curl, every pulse of light reminded the listener that they were safe, cradled in a warm, heartwarming embrace. And as the night deepened, the moonlight, the shadows, and Marceline's gentle presence wrapped the forest, and everyone within it in perfect calm. The whispers drifted one last time. Rest, drift. The night is kind. The shadows watch over you. All is safe. The forest settled. The shadows curled softly, and the gentle heartbeat of the night lingered in the mind and heart. Everything was still. Everything was calm. The world was warm and safe, carrying every dream gently into peaceful, endless sleep. The night had fallen over the land of Oo, soft and quiet, with only the silver glow of the moon illuminating the world. Marceline floated gently above the ground, her long dark hair trailing behind her like a silky shadow. Around her, the sleepy forest seemed to hold its breath, listening. Tiny shadows began to stir beneath the trees, curling slowly and stretching toward the moonlight. They weren't frightening. Rather, they moved gracefully, like dancers performing a slow, gentle lullaby. Marceline's soft hum mingled with the breeze, and the shadows responded, twisting and swirling in perfect harmony with her voice. The figure of Marceline moved slowly along the forest. The night had settled softly over a quiet garden, tucked away behind ivy-covered walls and winding paths. The moon hung low, casting silver light across petals and leaves that glimmered faintly with dew. In the stillness, a gentle warmth lingered in the air, a sense that this was a place where laughter, though long past, still lingered quietly. The paths were lined with small glowing flowers, each one bending slightly as if bowing in the moonlight. The sound of soft, distant laughter drifted gently through the air, echoing faintly but never startling. It was not loud or brash, but calm and soothing, curling around the senses like a soft blanket. Walking slowly along the stone path, a figure noticed shadows of playful shapes curling among the flowers. They were not ordinary shadows. They were gentle echoes of joy, twisting and swirling softly in time with the lingering laughter. Some shaped themselves like small animals, a fox curled up under a bush, a tiny cat stretching along the garden wall, while others formed abstract arcs, delicate spirals of light and shadow that moved like slow, deliberate brushstrokes across the garden. The gentle laughter seemed to respond to the movement of these shadows, rising and fading like a song carried by the breeze. Each note was a soft reminder that happiness, even when quiet or hidden, never truly leaves. The figure wandered deeper into the garden, the silver light of the moon reflecting softly off dewdrops and illuminating the winding paths ahead. A small fountain appeared in the center of the garden, its water glimmering with moonlight. Tiny ripples formed where the water moved, reflecting the faint, playful shadows that danced along the edges. The sound of the water joined the whispers of laughter, creating a calm, rhythmic melody that carried through the hidden corners of the garden. Here in this secret place, the garden seemed alive yet serene. Every leaf, every petal, every tiny ripple of water echoed with the warmth of memories, smiles once shared, laughter once spoken, and moments of gentle joy waiting quietly to be remembered. Pause, take a slow breath in, and exhale. Feel the warmth of the garden wrapping softly around you. The figure continued along the path, noticing small corners where laughter lingered the most. A patch of glowing flowers forming a perfect circle, a fallen bench bathed in moonlight, a swing swaying slowly as if moved by invisible hands. Each spot seemed to whisper softly, "Rest. The world is kind. Joy is always here, even if quiet." The night was calm, the moonlight silver, and the garden wrapped around the figure like a cocoon of gentle warmth. The laughter, though soft and distant, carried a heartwarming energy, an invitation to relax, breathe, and allow the garden's quiet magic to guide the mind toward calm, dreamlike rest. The figure wandered deeper into the hidden garden, the moonlight glinting softly off petals and dew-laden leaves. Every step brought new glimpses of quiet joy, little pockets where laughter lingered, like a gentle, warm mist. The air itself seemed to hum with calm energy, wrapping everything in soft serenity. Along the winding paths, small clusters of flowers glowed faintly, their soft light pulsing as though breathing slowly. Shadows twisted lazily among the blooms, curling into soft arcs and spirals, as if dancing to a rhythm only they could hear. Some shapes formed tiny animals, foxes, rabbits, and cats, that moved in gentle, hypnotic loops. Others remained abstract, curling and unfolding like waves of moonlight across the garden floor. A faint echo of laughter floated through the air, soft and melodic. It wasn't the laughter of today, but of memories lingering behind the petals and the stone paths. Each note was warm and heartening, carrying a sense of comfort that made the figure's breath slow, their bodies sink deeper into calm. Pause. Inhale slowly. Hold. Exhale. Imagine the soft glow of the flowers wrapping around you. The figure came to a small clearing, its center dominated by a sparkling fountain. Water trickled gently, forming tiny ripples that shimmered in the silver light. Shadows leaned over the edges, curling and folding, some reaching into the water to create spirals that danced in time with the faint echoes of laughter. Tiny glowing motes floated lazily above the fountain, drifting in slow arcs like floating lanterns guiding the way. Each corner of the garden seemed alive with quiet memories. A swing swayed gently in the breeze, invisible hands moving it just enough to create soft arcs in the moonlight. A fallen bench covered in ivy seemed to cradle the echoes of smiles once shared there. Even the tall hedges swayed as if whispering softly, "Rest. The world is kind. Joy is always here, even if quiet." Further along, the figure noticed the hidden archway, vines twining along its frame. Shadows curled along the stone, forming loops that stretched slowly toward the moon. Here the echoes of laughter seemed slightly stronger, like faint conversations, whispers of giggles, or the soft murmur of friends sharing a secret. Each sound was distant, warm, and hypnotic, carrying the gentle promise of comfort. Marbles of light, tiny orbs glowing softly, floated lazily around the archway, tracing arcs through the air. The shadows danced around them, curling into spirals and loops, reflecting their movement in the soft sheen of dew on the leaves. The figure followed, drifting slowly through the hidden paths, breathing in the calm energy of the garden. Pause. Take another slow, deep breath. Exhale. Let the warmth of the hidden garden fill your chest. The figure reached a small pond, its surface smooth as glass. Reflections of the moon, flowers, and dancing shadows shimmered in slow, hypnotic ripples. Tiny shadow creatures shaped themselves into comforting forms, animals, arcs, and even faint smiling faces that seemed to hover just above the water. They twirled lazily, leaving traces of light that shimmered and faded slowly, like memories floating in the night air. A gentle breeze carried the faintest hints of sound, whispers and soft laughter woven together, blending with the subtle murmur of the water. The garden felt alive but not intrusive. Every motion, every glow, and every whisper was deliberate, slow, and soothing. The figure could feel the rhythm of the space aligning with their own heartbeat, slowing it naturally, carrying them closer to deep calm. Some of the shadow shapes drifted closer, forming soft spirals around the figure. They moved in loops, arcs, and gentle folds, pulsing faintly as if breathing in sync with the garden. The light of the moon and the glow of the flowers bathed everything in soft silver, turning every leaf, every ripple, every shadow into a hypnotic lullaby. The whispers returned, soft and melodic. Sleep. Rest. Joy is gentle. The garden watches over you. All is calm. The figure paused near a corner where the laughter seemed to linger most strongly. Tiny glowing motes floated lazily through the air, drifting around the curled shadows and casting faint trails of light. Every curl, every spiral, every ripple in the pond, every echo of laughter worked together like a slow, hypnotic dance, inviting complete relaxation. The hidden garden had revealed its deepest heart. Here, the whispers, the shadows, the glowing flowers, and the soft laughter merged into a cocoon of calm. Every detail encouraged stillness. Every movement reminded the listener that they were safe. And every sound carried the gentle promise of peaceful, heartwarming dreams. Pause. Inhale slowly. Exhale. Let the garden carry you into gentle rest. The figure sat quietly, letting the shadows curl around them, and the laughter drift softly through the air. The hidden garden held them in perfect serenity, a secret place where every smile, every whisper, and every ripple of light was a lullaby. And so, wrapped in moonlight, laughter, and soft shadows, The garden waited patiently, inviting the listener to drift slowly, deeply, and safely into dreamlike calm. The figure wandered further, guided by the soft glow of moonlight spilling through gaps in the ivy-covered walls. The garden deepened into a series of quiet glades, each one bathed in silver light and dotted with glowing flowers. Shadows twisted and curled across the paths and flower beds, moving slowly, like dancers performing a silent, mesmerizing waltz. Here the echoes of laughter were softer, warmer, and more inviting. They seemed to hum along with the gentle swaying of the leaves, curling in the moonlight like threads of silver mist. Each note of laughter, distant and kind, wrapped around the figure like a familiar, heartwarming blanket, encouraging them to breathe slowly, deeply, and calmly. Pause. Inhale. Hold for a moment, and exhale. Let the calm of the garden settle into your body. In the heart of one glade, a small, crystal-clear pond appeared, reflecting the moon and the surrounding shadows. Tiny shadow creatures hovered above the water, tracing arcs and spirals in slow, deliberate movements. Some shaped themselves into animals. A fox curled in a glowing spiral, a cat stretched lazily, a rabbit twirled softly in circular loops. Others remained abstract shapes, twisting and folding like gentle waves of light. The whispers of the garden grew softer, interwoven with the faint laughter. Rest. Joy is always here. The garden watches over you. Drift. Drift. Along the edges of the pond, petals floated lazily in the air, carried by a breeze that felt almost like a gentle caress. Shadows moved alongside them, curling in arcs that followed the petals' paths, reflecting every motion in the water's surface. The pond became a mirror of calm, doubling the hypnotic patterns of light, shadow, and gentle laughter. Tiny glowing orbs drifted upward from the moss and flower beds, spiraling lazily around the figure. The shadows responded to these orbs, curling around them, forming soft loops, arcs, and protective shapes. Each movement was deliberate, slow, and heartwarming, a reminder that the garden held every smile, every whisper, and every laugh with care. Pause. Take a long breath in. Exhale. Feel the warmth of the garden folding around you. A hidden path curved away from the pond, leading to a small grove where laughter seemed strongest. Here the shadows became playful companions, twirling like ribbons of light and creating shapes that looked like tiny, smiling faces. They drifted lazily through the air, hovering over soft moss, curling around the flowers and wrapping the grove in a gentle, protective rhythm. The figure could feel the heartbeat of the garden, the slow, deliberate pulse of shadows, the shimmer of moonlight on petals, and the echoing whispers of laughter. Everything moved together in perfect harmony, creating a sense of safety, warmth, and calm. As the figure walked through the grove, soft echoes of laughter swirled around them, carrying memories of happiness, fleeting smiles, quiet giggles, and moments of joy long remembered but never lost. Each echo was gentle and soothing, intertwining with the soft, curling shadows and the silver glow of moonlit petals. The whispers returned, soft and melodic. Sleep, drift. The garden keeps you safe. Laughter always lingers. Rest. The figure paused beneath a small, flowering archway where shadows curled and twisted in gentle spirals. Tiny glowing lights floated around, creating arcs that reflected in the pond nearby. The air was warm with calm energy, carrying the promise of safety and peace. The garden felt alive, yet gentle and protective, a sanctuary where every memory of joy could rest without disturbance. Finally, the figure settled onto a soft patch of moss beneath the archway. The shadows curled around them like a cocoon of silver light. The laughter drifted softly, fading to a gentle hum that resonated with the slow rhythm of their breathing. Every movement, the floating orbs, the curling shadows, the shimmering petals, worked together to lull the mind and body toward a calm, restful state. Pause. Inhale deeply. Exhale slowly. Feel yourself sinking into the heart of the garden. The hidden garden of lost smiles held the figure in perfect serenity. The whispers, the shadows, and the faint laughter merged into a gentle lullaby, a soothing, immersive rhythm that invited the listener to drift slowly, deeply, and safely into dreamlike calm. The figure wandered along a winding path, guided by the silver glow of moonlight filtering through tall, flowering hedges. Each step revealed a hidden corner of the garden, quiet nooks where laughter lingered, soft and faint, like memories folded into the petals of night-blooming flowers. Shadows twisted and curled along the mossy ground, some forming soft spirals that pulsed slowly, almost like the gentle rhythm of a heartbeat. Tiny glowing orbs floated lazily through the air, leaving trails of faint light behind them. The figure followed them slowly, each movement drawing them deeper into the heart of the garden. Here in the secret corners, the echoes of smiles and laughter were strongest. A small stone bench, nestled beneath an arch of flowering vines, glimmered faintly with moonlight. Shadows curled along its edges, forming abstract, comforting shapes that seemed to whisper softly, "Rest. Joy remains. You are safe here." Pause. Inhale deeply. Exhale slowly. Let the calm of the garden settle into your body. The figure approached a tiny fountain tucked beneath the trees, its water sparkling with silver reflections of shadows and floating lights. Tiny shadow creatures hovered above the water, tracing arcs and spirals, their movements slow and hypnotic. Some shaped themselves like small animals. A fox curled in a glowing spiral. A rabbit twirled softly. A cat stretched lazily along the mossy edge. Every whisper, every movement, carried warmth and reassurance. The echoes of laughter swirled gently around the figure, intertwining with the shadows and the shimmering orbs. They rose and fell like a soft melody, slow and deliberate, inviting relaxation, calm, and quiet smiles. The figure noticed a cluster of tiny flowers glowing softly beneath a tree. Shadows twisted among the blooms, curling into shapes that resembled smiling faces. Each shape pulsed faintly, like the slow, reassuring beat of a heart. The flowers themselves seemed to hum in sync with the garden, adding to the gentle rhythm of whispers and shadows. Further along, a hidden path led to a small pond, perfectly still and mirrored like glass. The moonlight reflected off the water, casting soft patterns of silver across the garden floor. Tiny shadow creatures drifted above the pond in slow, hypnotic arcs, leaving trails of light that shimmered and faded gently. Pause. Take a slow, deep breath. Exhale. Imagine the shadows curling around you, wrapping you in gentle warmth. In this quiet place, the laughter and whispers felt almost tangible, as if the garden itself was speaking. Sleep, drift. Every smile is safe here. You are held in calm. Rest. The figure wandered through the grove, past glowing flowers, whispering leaves, and curling shadows. Every step was slow, deliberate, and soothing. Tiny orbs floated alongside, tracing arcs that mirrored the figure's breathing, creating a rhythm of calm that synchronized perfectly with the heart and mind. Finally, the figure settled near a small, flowering archway. Shadows curled softly around them, forming a cocoon of silver light. The laughter drifted faintly through the air, fading to a gentle hum that resonated with the slow, rhythmic pulse of the garden. The whispers, the floating lights, and the curling shadows all worked together like a lullaby in motion, inviting deep, restful sleep. Pause. Inhale slowly. Exhale. Feel the hidden garden of lost smiles embracing you. Here in the secret corners, the garden held the figure in perfect serenity, every echo of laughter, every pulse of shadow, and every shimmer of light worked in harmony to create a calm, heartwarming cocoon, ready to carry the listener into dreamlike peace and gentle rest. The figure continued along the winding paths, guided by the gentle glow of moonlight spilling through arches of ivy and flowering vines. The garden seemed to breathe softly, each rustle of leaves, each curling shadow moving with a deliberate, slow rhythm. Tiny echoes of laughter floated through the air, soft and warm, like a lullaby from the past, wrapping the figure in gentle reassurance. Ahead, a larger clearing opened, a heart of the hidden garden. Moonlight spilled across a pond that mirrored the stars above, its surface perfectly still, reflecting the soft silver glow of the shadows. Shadows danced across the moss and flowers, curling in slow arcs and spirals, their movements hypnotic and deliberate. Some shadows shaped themselves like playful animals, a fox curling into a glowing spiral, a tiny cat stretching lazily, and a rabbit hopping in slow, looping circles. Others remained abstract, twisting softly like gentle waves of light. They pulsed slowly as if breathing in sync with the garden itself. Pause. Inhale slowly. Exhale. Feel the heartbeat of the garden align with your own. Tiny orbs of glowing light floated lazily above the pond, drifting through the arcs of the shadows. Each orb traced gentle, hypnotic paths, reflecting in the water as the shadows followed, curling and twisting in perfect harmony. The faint laughter of the garden mixed with soft whispers. Rest. Every smile is safe. The garden watches. Drift. Drift. Around the edges of the clearing, flowers glimmered softly, their petals reflecting the silver moonlight and the pulses of the shadows. Some shadows hovered over the blooms, curling gently and forming shapes that looked like smiling faces, tiny echoes of joy that warmed the heart without speaking a word. The whispers grew even softer, almost like a breath brushing against the skin. Sleep, the garden holds you. Laughter remains. All is calm. The figure wandered slowly around the pond, noticing every delicate detail. A small stone bench bathed in moonlight, a swing swaying gently in an invisible breeze, petals floating in arcs above the moss. The shadows followed, curling softly around these objects, leaving trails of faint silver light that shimmered and faded slowly. Pause. Take a long, deep breath. Exhale. Feel the gentle magic of the garden wrapping around you. At the center of the pond, a single, large lotus glowed softly. Tiny shadow creatures hovered above it, tracing slow spirals that mirrored the arcs of the moonlight on the water. The figure could feel the warmth of the garden's heart pulsing gently through the night, carrying peace, calm, and a quiet joy that seeped into every part of the mind and body. Marbles of glowing light floated lazily through the clearing, curling around shadows and plants alike. The whispers intertwined with the distant laughter, creating a soft, hypnotic melody that echoed throughout the heart of the garden. Every movement, the curling shadows, the floating orbs, the shimmering petals, and the still pond, worked together to cradle the figure in complete serenity. The figure finally settled on a soft patch of moss near the glowing lotus. Shadows curled around them, forming a gentle, protective cocoon. Tiny orbs floated lazily above, tracing arcs in time with the figure's breathing. The whispers faded to a soft hum, echoing through the garden like a lullaby without words. Pause, inhale, exhale. Feel yourself drifting. Feel the smiles of the garden wrapping you in warmth. Here at the very heart of the hidden garden, the shadows, whispers, laughter, and glowing lights merged into a perfect, heartwarming lullaby. Every curl, every spiral, every shimmer of silver light invited the listener to sink deeper into calm, rest, and peaceful, dreamlike sleep. The figure rose slowly from the soft moss near the glowing lotus, the heart of the garden still pulsing faintly with gentle warmth. Shadows curled around them, forming soft, protective spirals, while tiny orbs of light drifted lazily above, tracing slow arcs that shimmered in the moonlight. Every movement was deliberate, slow, and soothing, like the garden itself was guiding them home. The winding paths back toward the garden's entrance were lined with glowing flowers, their petals bending gently under the moonlight. Shadows twisted and curled along the paths, creating soft, hypnotic patterns that mirrored the figure's slow steps. Each step felt lighter than the last, carried by the whispers of laughter and the heartwarming glow of memory. Pause. Inhale deeply. Exhale slowly. Let the warmth of the garden follow you. Along the path, quiet corners appeared where laughter lingered most strongly. A small bench bathed in silver light, a swing swaying in an invisible breeze, clusters of flowers glowing faintly like lanterns. Shadows curled around each corner, forming protective loops and arcs, their movements slow and rhythmic, pulsing with the calm energy of the night. The whispers drifted softly. Rest. Joy is always near. The garden watches over you. Drift, drift. Tiny shadow creatures floated alongside the figure, curling into comforting shapes as they guided them along the moonlit path. Some twirled lazily in arcs above the moss, others stretched slowly along the flowers, leaving faint trails of light that shimmered and faded gently. Every motion, every flicker, every soft glow worked in harmony to carry the figure deeper into calm. As the garden's entrance came into view, the moonlight spilling over the ivy-covered walls, the whispers and laughter began to fade slowly. The shadows curled one last time, forming soft arcs and spirals along the path and around the figure. The glowing orbs drifted upward, floating lazily towards the night sky, leaving faint trails of silver light that lingered into the air. Pause. Take a slow, deep breath. Exhale. Feel the garden's warmth wrapping around you one last time. The figure paused at the edge, taking in the serene beauty of the hidden garden. Every shadow, every whisper, every echo of laughter had guided them safely through the heart of the magical place. Marceline's gentle presence, if imagined as a kind companion, seemed to smile softly from the depths of the garden, watching over everything with quiet care. Finally, the figure settled onto a soft patch of moss near the entrance, wrapped in the lingering glow of the shadows and the gentle warmth of the hidden garden. The whispers faded to a gentle hum, the laughter softened into a distant echo, and the moonlight cast a calming silver blanket across the entire space. Pause. Inhale. Exhale. Feel yourself sinking deeply into calm, warmth, and serenity. Here at the garden's edge, everything was still. The shadows curled into soft, protective shapes. The whispers and laughter rested quietly, and the glowing lights faded slowly into the night. The heart of the hidden garden had imparted its calm, heartwarming magic, leaving the figure and the listener in complete peace, ready for deep, restful sleep. Final pause. Take one last slow breath in. Exhale. Drift into endless dreams.